So this is alleged. We don't know if this is true or not, but the rapper Cameron claims the reason why Draymond Green punched out Jordan Poole was because, according to him, I'm going to read this quote from what he said. So here's what Cameron said. From all the things that I was hearing, they was saying there's reasons Draymond punched him in the face. They said the first day he told Draymond, I effed more women at Michigan State than you when you went there. And then they were running sprints and he told Draymond, don't worry about it. You'll be in Sacramento next year. Then he told Draymond, why is your Twitter handle Money Green when you're broke and you're not going to get a new contract? So keep in mind, we don't know if this is true. This is just allegedly coming out of Cameron's mouth that Draymond said this. So I just want to make that clear. But if this is true, I'm going to say this. I've never been down with trash talk only because I see the bad things that can happen with it. I know people are going to say, like, oh, you're sensitive. But no, that's not true at all. I have dealt with so many trash talkers when I played basketball in the streets. It hasn't never gotten to me. The only time it's gotten to me when guys actually wanted to have fist fights with me. That's when I think it crossed the line. And I think it should for anybody, that when someone wants to fight you, after saying dumb things to you, you should be pissed off about that. It's too extreme for anyone. So that's when it crossed the line. And I would say just when it got into racial stuff, to me, that's just off limits. But in general, it's never gotten to me, but I don't respect it. And I'll tell you why. Because I've seen so many times when people start talking trash to each other, it can result into a fight breaking out. I think it can result in someone not taking it too well. Even the guys who claim they're not sensitive about it, they are sensitive. I've seen dudes get emotional who you wouldn't suspect to get emotional over something that was said, a word that was said. And these guys are prolific trash talkers. I've seen it. Like, everyone has a sensitive spot. Even the greatest trash talkers are emotional if they can't win that battle with you, that they take it up with hands. I remember one time reading a book how Gary Payton got into Vernon Maxwell simply because Maxwell insulted him and he got emotional. He tried to hit him with a barbell or something, So that shows you how he can lead out of control. And you look at Gary Payton, this guy has a big mouth, and you're thinking that nothing can bother him, but even he was ticked off. It happened one time with him and Speedy Claxton. I remember Speedy said some words back to him, and he jumped up on him and started hitting him. So that's why I don't respect it, because, like I said, the guys with the biggest mouths are the most sensitive dudes out there. They pretend it doesn't get to them because they're used to winning the war of words, but when they lose. When they lose, they can't handle it and they resort to violence. I've seen it too many times. I think trash talk in general is childish. I accept it as part of the game, but that's the way I view it. Just when you open it up for that, you just never know what can happen. Granted, an NBA game, I wouldn't be concerned about it just because, again, you have refs, you have people who could break up fights on the streets. To me, it's always dangerous because you just never know who will take it the wrong way and what they can do. I've seen plenty of fights break out, like I said before. Excuse me. But now I know I went on this rant about that stuff, but how does it apply to Draymond and Jordan Poole? I'll say this. Draymond is a sensitive guy. He is. He can diss it, but he can't take it. This is one of the biggest reasons I don't respect him. He can throw insults around, but if someone gets him good, he gets angry and he wants to do something. He'll usually retaliate with a dirty play, just that's uncalled for. So that's why I don't respect him. I think he's a clown. And I thought what Jordan Poole said was wrong, but at the same time, I give him a pass. I know some people are going to just say, you're giving him a pass because you hate Draymond Green. No, that's not the reason why. I'm giving him a pass because Draymond created this environment in the locker room where this stuff was normal. He normalized it. He set the tone from day one. This is the type of stuff he wants to see with trash talk. He wants guys to get up each other's faces and run their mouths and do all that shit. So when you normalize something, then you can't be upset about it when it's used against you because you decided to make it normal. You had the power to not accept it to being part of the culture, but you wanted to make it part of the culture. I've heard Draymond even admit a few years ago that he liked Jordan Poole because of all the trash talking he did to other guys. And when guys complained to him to tell Jordan Poole to stop, and he was like, nah, I'm not going to do anything about it. You're just gonna have to deal with it. I like this. I like this. So he had a chance to stop it way back then, but he didn't nip it. So he created this atmosphere. And if it's true, I don't feel bad for him because he was responsible for creating this atmosphere. So when you create something like this, you deal with the pros and cons of that type of environment that you create. And this is what he decided to create. And if he's a leader, you got to accept that. And you got to take responsibility for it. And you got to man up and not lose your cool and knock that guy out. Just you deal with it. You may not like it, but you take it. You got to eat it. That's the way I look at it. I look at some teams that have zero tolerance for this stuff. Like I look at the Tim Duncan Spurs. They wouldn't allow this type of stuff to happen in the locker room, in practice. I remember Steven Jackson, part of the reason why he got kicked off the Spurs was he was trying to start shit with other players on the team by running his mouth and trying to get up in their faces and start confrontations, and Pop wouldn't allow it. That's something that people don't mention. You just hear that story from Steven Jackson. It was about just him and Manu getting minutes, but that's not true. I've heard from reliable sources that it was more than that. That's what got him kicked off the team. He's just doing it to cover to protect his reputation, right? He doesn't have much of it, but you see what I'm saying. So the Spurs have always drawn a line when it comes to that stuff. And some people will say that that's soft and makes them a bunch of squares, but that's their culture and that's their atmosphere. So they made that decision. I remember Michael Finley said something interesting many years ago when he asked to get away from the Spurs because he felt they were no longer contenders. I think during the 2009-2010 season, and he went to the Celtics. He said the biggest difference between the Celtics locker room and the Spurs is that the Celtics encourage a bunch of trash talking, and that's just the norm in practice. They like the confrontations. They like guys getting up in each other's faces, while the Spurs don't tolerate that stuff. So as a leader, you decide what type of culture your locker room has. Like I feel with the Celtics, Pierce and Garnett, they were the leaders of that locker room, and they're a bunch of trash talkers. So that was the norm they set. Draymond set that as the norm in his locker room. And as a leader, you got to accept responsibility. So it shows again Draymond's crappy leadership skills, if all this is true. And that's what I had to say about it. Just nothing else really. So